Welcome. Just here doing an Instagram live talk, love me chit chat with my good friend Nadine Searle. And while we wait for her to join us, I just want to start this off by acknowledging the land where I settle, where I operate my life from, and I am in Mississauga, and actually Uxbridge, Ontario, Canada right now, and honoring the original inhabitants of the millennia to Mother Earth and the wisdoms that have been shared over millennia and that allow us this opportunity to operate our lives, our businesses, and do these lovely discussions with each other on social media. So just honoring that, for honoring Mother Earth for her love, nourishment, her sustenance that she provides us each and every day. And may we honor that in our day to day with reciprocity. So thank you, Nadine, for joining. How are you?
Hello, hello. I'm pleased to be here. I'm good, thank you. Thank you very much. Lovely to see you. We've got a
Good
few
to see
people
you
joined us.
too.
So just
Yeah,
say hello to them.
yeah.
Do put, if you want to ask any questions while we're chatting, put them in the comments because we will try and look as well as talk, won't we, and answer them. But
Right.
there's always replays, isn't there? We always put the replays up because we record this, don't we? So you can always comment afterwards and we will look and we will answer.
Yes.
So please do that if you miss anything, because they're wonderful conversations, aren't they? And I know people ask us questions. So
Yeah, and I'm so glad we're back having another
mm,
conversation. Always talk about, things that aren't maybe at the forefront, and I love that we can just like let it go wherever it flows. And I
yeah,
think today we're going to talk about change, and probably there's so
mm,
much to say there, so many avenues we
there's,
could go down with that. But
there's there is so much, isn't there? And I think we're in that energy of the new moon, aren't we? And
we
that
are.
is, you put a post up recently that beautifully describes that and the change that
Hmm.
I believe, and I'm hearing it from a lot of people, that there is that feeling in the air, isn't there? There is change happening,
Yeah.
whether we recognize it or not, whether we like it or not. And my take on that is I'm going through some massive changes at the moment. And and I mentioned it to you, didn't I, Trish, the fear, the resistance that, it's, I don't like change. I know it happens all the time, but I've still got those things that come up,
Hmm.
and I do, as I say, I'm getting it from so many other people. They're feeling that. So, would you like to describe in the way that you'd always do so beautifully about the energy of the new moon and what's happening at the moment? Because I think it's really good for people to hear.
Yeah, thanks, and thanks for sharing that. I know, like it changes hard for all of us at times, depending on what degree of change it is, whether we choose it or it just happens to us. So I think,
Yeah.
and we resist that because it sometimes brings discomfort, it brings uncertainty. We can't see what the next moment looks like even, and so
Mhm.
it's scary, and so we want to just cling to what we know, and but that just keeps us, we can get stuck there. So I think
That's the thing.
it's how do we move through the change, how do we embrace it, and how do we do that
Yeah.
and allow ourselves that space to do that. So we, if you're feeling it, I know, like you and I were talking earlier, and like we're still feeling this new moon, and this is how like new moon energy works. We usually typically feel it stronger after the new moon peaks, because the moon is waxing, so it's intensifying in its
Yeah.
light and its energy, and so that's
Mm.
why you may still be feeling the effects of that.
Yeah.
Whereas the full moon, like we're feeling it as we lead up and as it builds, we're feeling
Mm.
that build up with full moon. So in order to release, so that's one reason. But also we're on we're shifting, and I posted about this a few days ago about like this shift that we're in astrologically. And like we said, if even if you don't believe in astrology, you don't know much about it or whatever it is, it's still happening regardless.
Yeah.
And if we can understand it, it kind of makes what's happening make a little bit of sense to us, because right now we're a lot of things are feeling intense. we're feeling things on an individual level, but also collectively too. So we have to realize that it might not even be specific to what we're going through personally. We just feel this intensity. So what I was leading into was like the lunar nodes are shifting from Scorpio, Taurus. Scorpio was the south node and Taurus the north node. Now we're shifting into Aries being the north node and Libra the south node. So south node, just briefly, is where we're comfortable, what we understand already, where we've been, where we're coming from, and the north node is, generally speaking, like our destiny, where we're headed towards, where we're drawn towards, what will allow us to be in our fullest potential as a human being, and to realize that. So that is where the discomfort is, because we don't know what that looks like. We're clinging on to maybe the old because it's familiar and comfortable. And Aries itself is about the self. So that sign, that energy is about the self. And so it's really asking us to connect with ourselves, connect inward, but also understand who we are on a deeper level. And that's how we do that, is allowing ourselves that time to be and understand and have those inner dialogues. And the internal world is what directs our external world. And we may not like that, but it's actually true. Like, I know, like, yeah, I don't like, it's hard to kind of face that we kind of create what we're experiencing, but in some way. So I think we have the potential either way to create or allow to be passive in it. And but I think in this time we're being called to really step into who we are. And in order to do that, we have to embrace the change, open up to possibility, open up to new things. And that can be uncomfortable at times, as you know, as we all know. Yeah.
Yeah, you're so right, and it's just wonderful that you explain it that way, that we can dip in, we don't have to, but it's happening anyway. And change happens all the time, doesn't it, whether we like it or not? But it is something, the more that we can embrace it and step into it, it does us so much good, doesn't it? And I know that from experience, and I was quite surprised recently when I had that fear and resistance pop up again, the changes that I'm facing. And but it is still there sometimes, isn't it? But we can work through it. And one of the things that we did, people probably know that you give me distance Reiki healing regularly, which I absolutely adore. And the last session that we had together, this was what I was saying to you, wasn't it? There's this change coming. I've got all these old feelings are coming up again, and that's what we worked on together, wasn't it? And I felt the shift in the moment so beautifully. Things came to me. The Reiki does its work. I know you say it isn't you, and I do understand that, but there's so much power there, isn't it? And I felt these beautiful things. So that the work was done in the moment, with me not having to work too hard, which is what I adore about it, just lying down with my doggies and all washing over me and everything. But I had just feelings of what was meant to be and how I was going to handle this, and this is what I want people to realize, is that, and a lot of people don't understand Reiki and don't know how it works. I don't really know how it works. I give Reiki, I receive Reiki. It's wonderful. We don't need to know, and we don't need to work hard at it, but it works, doesn't it? And that's what I wanted to share with people. So I know if people look at your website, you've got a lovely section, haven't you, about the way that you help people. So I would encourage people to do that. Do you just want to tell people what your website is, Trish,
Yeah,
so they can find you?
thank you for that. This is trishcampbell.com. And I think you're so right. Like, I could go into the explanation about Reiki and how it works. And we know only so much. It's energy, ultimately energy, emotion that's stored in the body. And ultimately, we think we can figure out everything in our head, but there's a lot of things stored in our body, a lot of energy, a lot of stagnant energy. And so we may not even realize what's happening, but Reiki allows universal life force energy, the energy that we all are, to flow through, and it brings things to the surface, brings old emotion to the surface in order for us to move through it and release it. And it's so interesting that you said that this happened during the session, because we are, and I also posted about this too, I think, in this shift that we are having, like, we're or maybe it was in my stories, I don't remember, but the frequencies of the earth are raising, like our consciousness collectively is raising to a higher consciousness. Collectively speaking, that happens first on the individual level. But what that means is like healing that took us years before, it can happen instantaneously now. Like now
Yeah.
we're experiencing healing happen so rapidly. And it's almost like we need to catch up with that healing. Like once it
Yes.
happens, it's like, okay, now what?
Yes.
It's like, so
Yeah.
that is like, it's so
Mm.
beautiful the way that you said that, because I think the other thing that comes up with that is like embracing what's happening in the moment, and allowing ourselves grace through that process, and allowing ourselves to feel
Mm.
however we feel, and not just quickly try to move through it, but like, give ourselves that space.
Yeah, yeah, and again, that's so important, isn't it? Because we keep in contact with each other, and I know after a
Hmm.
session you always do with people anyway.
Yeah.
But it is, I was having dreams, then it opened something up, and I was going with it, and it's what I needed. And again, I'd like to remind everyone the power when you realize you need some help and you ask for it, what you get is so magical, isn't it? And I know people struggle with asking for help.
Hmm.
I used to, but I know I've got so many people that can help me, and it always does me so much good to put myself in that maybe vulnerable position,
Hmm.
admit that I've got the fear and the anxiety and the
Yeah.
resistance, because I never used to. And now I know I can. I can pass it over to you, pass it over to the universe to help me. And it does.
Hmm.
And that's the reminder that I need it, obviously, sometimes to remember that, just to ask for help. You get it, you receive. And as you know, I'm big into now that the balance of the giving and receiving, getting that little bit more steady for me. So all lessons that I'm learning through my changes and its growth. And there are moments when it's uncomfortable, but most of the moments are beautiful. And it's worth going through that little bit of discomfort, isn't it? You say about lean into it, lean into your pain, lean into your feelings. I was doing that big time, and it
Hmm.
really serves me well. And not pushing the easy button, not going like, I'm not doing it,
Yeah.
because that's what I used to do. And it's like, I'm going to go through this,
Me
not the
too.
easy way maybe, but the better way, because it is right. It just reminds me, but that's nice, for me to be able to share that I still have my moments when I'm going, oh, no, I'm not doing that. And then I remember, and then I do push myself out of my comfort zone a little bit, but it's so worth it,
It
so worth it.
is. And I
Mm.
think we all have those moments, because change is the only true constant that we have. So we're always going to be
Yeah.
presented with more change. And
Mm.
just
Mm.
because we've done healing work or inner work, and done all we've experienced growth and expansion, does not mean we're exempt from any further change and having to navigate that. I
Yeah.
experience that all the time. So, and like you,
Yeah.
and it doesn't necessarily feel good in the moment, because we don't, and so we, our natural inclination is to again push it away. But and you mentioned the easy button. The easy button isn't going to work anymore for us. We are in a
Oh,
new, like, we're shifting into new ways of being, that like the only way through is to face it, because it will just keep coming up. It will just keep coming and following us.
yeah.
And it has in the past, but it's going to, it's not going to go away. And this is our time. We're being called to, we have the capacity within ourselves. We have the wisdom within ourselves to do the work, to heal and release anything that we're holding on to. And it might not even be ours. It could be ancestral wounds that we're carrying,
Mm.
because we can say, oh, well, nothing's happened to me bad in my life. I had a perfect childhood. And well, regardless of that, like, we're still carrying everything before us that was not
Yes.
processed
Yes.
and healed and released. And there's generations of that. So
Yeah.
this is the time where we're being called to, we can't continue to operate in the ways we were operating before. And that's why it feels so hard right now and intense,
Mm.
because
Mm.
we want to cling to the old ways of how things used to be. And we can't. We're being called to our greater potential, which, in the way through that, is going to be, it's going to take us to be vulnerable, and but embody the courage to do that. And
Yeah.
we all, it's like I said, nobody's exempt from that. We all have our own timelines, our own experiences, but it's happening for all of us right now for a reason,
Mm.
because we are
Yeah.
shifting into collectively higher energies. And the only way out is the only way through is to, or out is through, or whatever that saying is.
Yeah.
Like
No, it
we
is,
can't
isn't it?
hit the
You've got to
easy
go
button. We
through it.
can't shove it aside
Yeah.
anymore. So
No, no. You're right. I used to do that so much and it doesn't work forever. And you're right. I've changed now. It doesn't work at all for me
yeah,
now. And also, deep down, I don't want to do it that way. I know this way is better and it's better for me. But as I say, I still have sometimes that,
yeah,
like you say, the old fears. Sometimes those come from my childhood fears, that those panic fear feelings, memories come back.
hmm
Sometimes I know it's my childhood because, as you know, we've done a lot of inner child work. But I think you're right. Sometimes it's ancestral. It can come from way back and it's still
yeah,
in us. And
yeah,
what I love with the inner child work and with ancestry, you know, if you look back at that or even are just aware of it, we can heal those wounds. We can heal what
yes,
was gone on before. That to me is a revelation and a joy that I can heal my inner child. I have done and I continue to do so. And I know you have too. But also to look at the wounds from generations past. You know,
hmm
if we look into it, even if we don't understand it,
yeah,
we can feel that healing and it makes things easier for us. So to step into that as well,
yeah,
you know, is brave, but it heals and it's so worth doing, isn't it? And you just feel different, you know, all the time. As I say, my old habits and patterns can come back up
hmm
again and they come back up for a reason.
me
It's
too.
always protection, isn't it? Misguided sometimes protection, but we can work through it and it's so worth it, isn't it? So again, just for people to realize that, you know, it's normal to feel that resistance sometimes, but it is so worth stepping into it and asking for help and getting all that, which we both help clients, don't we? But there's lots of people out there, you know. I think someone said, there's a saying, isn't there? It
hmm
takes a village to raise a child. I think it's something like that. And I'm really feeling now it takes a village to heal me at the moment, to do
It,
what I need, you know. And I'm
that's
lucky I've got around me, you know. It's wonderful. So always ask for help because it really is the way forward, isn't it?
It is. I love that. And it's so true. We need each other. We need each
Mm,
other. We
mm,
have to, process our pain maybe by ourselves, but we need
mm.
others to support us in that as well. Like nobody can
Yeah.
do the processing of it for us, but we
No.
can ask for support in
Yeah.
walking
Mm.
that, navigating that, and like unpacking what's coming up, and
Yeah.
all of those things. And that's why we're here, and that's, we're here for that connection. Like we can't,
Mm.
nothing of significance is ever done alone. Like we need each other. And so I think it's
Yeah.
important, like you said, to ask for help. When we ask for help, we open up to the universe for help to come
Mm.
in, like you've seen and you've
Yeah.
experienced, like tremendous
Yeah.
support and love. And it's so beautiful to witness because I know how much you give to other people. And like you said, it's learning the balance, or learning the balance between
Exactly.
giving and receiving.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's always, it's so much easier for us to give because
Mm.
we're not in a vulnerable position as we are when we're
That's it.
receiving. So,
That's
but
it. Yeah. It's
this is all about us becoming comfortable with being vulnerable. That is
yeah. Yeah.
how we heal. And I want
Mm.
to go back to the word healing because we're talking about it so much. And there's this, a lot of people resist even that word because it
Mm.
doesn't,
Mm.
healing sometimes kind of implies that there's something wrong with us, and it's not
Mm.
that there's something wrong with
Mm.
us.
No.
It's that we are here to realize our greatest potential.
Mm.
Ultimately, our souls came here to have an experience, and we get in the way in this dense 3D experience of Earth, and especially the way things are now, that where that, grasping onto the old ways of being collectively, and grasping onto power over us, that, like, that last grasp, where as we shift into this new way where we are like living through the heart versus through the ego.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but it's not about fixing something that's wrong with us, even if we have been wounded, even if we have experienced trauma. It is about, we don't have to carry that with us and let that be our identity our entire life and
Mm.
operate from that place. When we do the inner work, we can start to, and it takes, I know for myself, even as much healing work that I have done, it wasn't until 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, that I finally got it about being in a victimhood paradigm, that the
Yeah.
victimhood paradigm was allowing me to stay stuck. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's because of those wounds. We want something to kind of keep us safe, and like, well, I can't work on this because I'm hurt, and like this happened to
Yeah.
me, and
Yeah.
and I've done that too. But now I realize how
Mm-hmm.
freeing it is to kind of let that go, and
Yes.
not, and it will still come in. There will still be opportunities for me to say, oh, this happened to me. So like, now what? You know, but it's like, no, now we have quicker awareness around when we have these experiences. Like you said, when this change is happening, and now like you're shifting into a new, for yourself specifically, like new treatment, which means like all these new decisions you have to make and all this uncertainty of what that's going to look like. And so the resistance to that change comes in. And for
Yeah.
me, you know, having new relational experiences, like, is kind of, you know, recognizing I'm falling back into an old way of operating. And it's like,
Yeah.
but we're not going to beat ourselves up over that. We're going to have the awareness and
Mm.
then move through it. And
Yeah.
in a different way, we make a choice to move through it differently.
Yes. That's the other thing. We do have that choice, but it is something that sometimes you do need to just give yourself a bit of a nudge, don't you? And I
Mm-hmm.
love that. And I think when you said about healing, it is right. And we've said it before, you know, but there's always more healing to do, isn't
Mm-hmm.
there? And I think people to accept that
Yeah.
is really important, isn't it? Because I think I've done a lot of work on myself decades ago, and I thought, right, I'm done. And then something comes up again, or something reminds me of something. I go, oh, not again. But now I really accept that this is ongoing.
Mm-hmm.
Things will come up again if needs be, whether I understand it or not. And I just go with it, because this is all part of the growth, isn't it? And I'd like to, if I may, I've got your book here. Can you see all my little markers
Yeah.
and everything? When I had the Reiki session with you recently, and it's still so relevant now, I'd like to read this little poem, if I may, because it perfectly describes. It is called The Courage to Heal, but I took it as the courage to change, didn't I? And as we've just been talking about, you know, change, heal, whatever we
Mm-hmm.
want to look at, it's really, really good. So if you're okay, I'd like to
Yeah.
read it out. It's, as I say, it's in your book, Love Me, but this is your original,
Yeah.
isn't it? There is a poetry book as well, and there's a meditation book. So again, the website that Trish is on, you can go there and you can get your own if you want to. And I really recommend that you do, because I dip into these books so much, and this is the reason that we do these chats, isn't it? Because I've read your book, I ask questions, and we can share. So this is what started it all. So I'm so
Mm-hmm.
grateful for that. But as I say, this is called The Courage to Heal. And it says, it's so poignant, we are afraid to look underneath. Underneath what? What are we hiding from? Our collective healing beckons, an invitation to let go and drop in beneath the surface. Look in the mirror. We are afraid to look at the truth of who we are. Beneath all the masks we wear, beneath the semblance of normal, lies the truth of our humanity, lies the contrast of the beauty and the beast, across the spectrum of our human nature, morphing from being to being to being. Yet truth runs through all the inequities present, the stark, gross imbalance of power, our constant need to be right always, to hold our position, even if just an inch above another, so that we can soothe, or rather escape, the unbearable pain of our own ugliness. The courage to
Mm-hmm.
heal. I mean, that is so, I get chills every time I read it, and I've read it a lot. And as you know, I like to read things out loud. It has power, doesn't it? So, but it is, isn't it? You know, it's that, to hold our position, our constant need to be right. You know, I know what I'm like. I can do this on my own. All of those things that we've just talked about, they're in
Yeah.
this poem. And as I say, with the poem, it's so concise, isn't it? You know, and the meaning is, it really hits home. So thank you so much for that. And I hope that people got what I was getting as I read it there, because it's so, so powerful. So the healing, the changing, it's all intertwined, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And yes, we resist. What are we resisting for? You know,
Right.
looking, when you said look in the mirror, you know, how many people don't like looking at themselves in the mirror? You
Yeah.
know, facing the
I,
truth, facing things, but it's again so beneficial, isn't it? What are we hiding from? What's going on?
mm-hmm.
So there's a lot in that poem, so
That,
much. It's very deep,
that's,
isn't it?
yeah. thank you, first of all, for reading it. I feel like it's so, like, I just appreciate you so much for bringing that forward. And it's so tied in with what we're talking about. And it's
Mm.
interesting because a lot of my poetry was like my personal processing of my feelings and
Yeah.
all of that. But this poem came to me, I was awakened at like 3 a.m. ish in the middle of the night. And I was having a dream. I was having a conversation with somebody, and it was so vivid. And I literally, as soon as I had the conversation, I had to like, I kind of was like half asleep, half awake, and I'm like, I need to write this down. And I always write stuff on my phone, and my phone's right next to on my nightstand.
Mm.
So I got up and I typed out what the message was and what I said to her, and then when I woke up in the morning, I'm like, did that happen? And I went and looked at my phone and I wrote this out. So I did like tweak it a little bit afterwards, but this
Mm.
was literally written in like my dream sleep kind of state where the veil is thin, where we're like, so I feel like this was not me. This was not coming, this was coming through my soul or coming through like
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
the divine light, the universe, like that is through all of us. And it wasn't a message just for me. It was a message for everybody. And so, I mean, and even the rest of my poetry that's personal to me, there's parallels to other people's stories and timelines
Mm.
and journeys and
Mm.
experiences and all that. But this one
Yeah.
specifically was like, wow, like it was felt so profound, and it may not
Mm.
resonate with some people, and it may be hard to read. It may feel sound harsh, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
I think it's so resonant for this time that we are in, to
Yeah.
face what it is we need to face within ourselves. And it's okay. It doesn't mean any like it, we don't need to beat ourselves up about anything that we're holding on to, or any, the guilt and shame are just like constructs by society that, control mechanisms. So we can let
Mm.
all of that go and just feel how we need to feel and move forward. And that's the way forward, is through the heart.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
clearing all
That's
that stuff out that's holding us back. Yeah.
exactly, isn't it? And it is sometimes uncomfortable, isn't it?
Yeah.
But this is another thing I love about your book, is that we can read things. I've
Hmm.
read that poem before, but actually when I read it just before our Reiki session, it really hit home, and
Hmm.
it's still holding that weight now, but it doesn't always. So I love to dip in and out of books, and I do like to let whatever's coming to me just come. It opens up at that page, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And that did that. And it's so interesting that you say that came to you in a dream and you made a note of it, because after our Reiki session recently, I said to you, didn't I, that I'm having some dreams, but I can't remember. I know they're
Hmm.
strong and powerful, because I don't always remember to make a note of them. But actually, if we can, they do tell us a lot, don't they? And it is a trick to actually, as soon as you wake up, if you do wake up, you make a note, because I don't remember. I know they're
Yeah.
powerful, but I don't always remember, and I don't always remember to write things down. But it's good if you can, isn't it? It does help you with processing, I think, doesn't it, sometimes?
And yeah, it
And
helps you. Yeah. And it also, sometimes I feel like there's messages in there. It's your
yes,
soul
yeah,
speaking to you. And I'm the same way too. Like I have a dream and then I get up and I think I'm going to remember it, but as soon as I start brushing my teeth and doing like my
yeah,
morning stuff, it's
yeah,
gone. So the
yeah.
best thing you can do is, as soon as you open your eyes, like
Write
to have
something
something to
down.
write
Yeah,
it down. Because
yeah,
a lot of times, especially if we're going through something, if we're challenged, if we're going through something challenging, a lot of times there's something there that can help us. So,
yes. That's the thing, isn't it? It is there
mhm,
for us. It's coming to us from another dimension sometimes, I
it
think, isn't it?
is
And like you say, getting
definitely.
out of your getting out of your head and into your heart space, it's almost like it takes that a bit further, doesn't it? But we both know, if we get out of our head, it's so good for us. And it definitely is good when we have problems to solve and questions to answer. If we can speak from our heart and feel from our heart, that is wonderful. It's hard for people to do. And one of the meditations that I've got on my YouTube channel is a coming out of your head into your body.
Mm,
And actually,
yeah,
people just learning that. It's quite quick and simple once you learn how to do it. But it's so beneficial, isn't it,
it
to
is.
actually get to do that. And some people don't know. People listening to us now might be going, oh, it's all right, but I don't know what they
Hmm.
mean. I don't know how to do it. And we can
We
learn, can't we, how to do it?
can,
But
yeah,
in a dream state, we're somewhere different, aren't we? And within the Reiki, we're somewhere
yeah.
different. Within meditation, we're somewhere different. We've changed our brain waves and we've come out of our head a lot more. So people that don't embrace these things, I would encourage them to try, because they do take you to another level, don't they?
And yeah, And that's the way we learn to. There was a time when
Mm.
I didn't even know what Reiki was. And so it's
No.
allowing ourselves to be open to having a new experience. And then we
Mm.
begin to build trust in that, even if we
Yes.
can't explain it, even if we can't put, rationale behind it, rationale from like our own,
Yeah.
ego or whatever. But
Mm.
what was I going to say that you said? Yeah, like moving from the head to the heart. Like, yes, we need to figure things out in our head, but we can only get so far with that. Ultimately, we're not linear beings, we're
Yeah. Yeah.
multi-dimensional beings. So the
Yes.
body
Yeah.
plays an important role in um, our functioning as human beings. And so
Yeah.
we've kind of turned off that turned down that dial by just operating through the head and the ego all the time and not listening to our bodies and not listening to the inner voice.
Yeah.
And so this is what healing, whatever it looks like for you, this is what just being in stillness with yourself, whatever that looks like for you, like allows to happen. And
Yeah.
even if
Yeah.
it's uncomfortable, because we've gotten so used to being externally driven and externally guided, but
Mm.
that is not going to work for us. Like I said earlier, in this
Yeah.
new shift that we're having, we're going to need to be guided internally. And that
Mm.
doesn't mean we only think about ourselves, but everybody's going to be operating from that. We're all connected. That internal light that's within us is connected to each of, like we're all connected in that way. So
Yes. Yeah.
then once we are connected with ourselves in that way, we broaden that, and that expands and impacts the connection we have with each other and deepens it. So
Yes.
it's,
Yeah.
but we can't experience that if we allow ourselves to just be staying where we are and not trying anything new and
Mm.
not,
Mm.
um, and even like we say, I don't believe in that, so it's not going to work for me. That's not true. I am witnessing somebody in real time who said, I'm not a believer, but now I'm
Yes.
beginning to be.
Yeah,
So yeah,
it still happens, and it
yeah,
is that kind of, the courage that we need to heal, to change.
yeah.
It does take courage to step into it, and it is around us, but we can
Mhm.
step into it and we can benefit from that, can't we? And like you always say, it's going on around us
Yeah,
anyway. But I love the idea, the more that you can embrace it and do get involved, if you like. I feel a little bit, it might be the wrong way to say it, but we can use it to our
we
benefit. We
can.
can actually step in, and it's so beneficial. And
Hmm.
like we said earlier, we're in the energy of the new moon, and I love the way that you describe it, because the moon is building now, so the power is still there, and it is still
Yeah.
there. It's not just one day, is it?
Mm-mm.
And I'm really feeling it, and as I say, so many people are saying to me, I'm feeling something, whether they understand it or not, and that's a lot of what it is. But I do, every new moon, I do a little ritual, which is new moon wishes, because it's our time for creating and setting intentions, and we can step into that power.
Hmm.
And it is so, I do it every new moon. I have a ritual that goes hand in hand with it for full moon as well. And again, on my YouTube channel there is a little video that describes it, so I might put a little link somewhere that people can find that. But I encourage people just to have a look, because again, it might not be for you right now, but there's
Hmm.
always another new moon. You can always do it.
Yeah.
And it is very powerful. And I've built this practice, and it is so powerful. We can create, we can actually set intentions, whether that be personal, business wise, that kind of thing. And I share this with a lot of my clients, and they find it magical. And it can change your life, if you get used to doing this and feel your power. And
Hmm.
again, getting out of your intellectual head and trying to make things happen that way, and giving it another way to actually get what you want. And as I say, that might sound a bit wrong, but it's sort of what it's about. This is what I want
Or
in
how,
my life, and it will
what you want
happen.
to create, your reality you want to
Yeah,
create, your
yeah.
future
And
that
how
you
you
want to
want to
create. Yeah.
feel. A
Yeah.
lot of the time, I say it doesn't have to be something you want to have. It can just be how you want to feel. So for me, coming to you with I don't want to feel scared. I don't
Hmm.
want to be resisting. That was more that, wasn't it? Those were the things I was feeling, and I wanted that not to be the case. And it can change with opening up and getting out of my head and trying not to force it, just letting it be. Go with it a bit. It's okay to feel scared, as we say all the time. Feel all those feelings. It's quite understandable to be fearful and resistant and everything. And I've learned again, and with your help so much as well, that it is okay to feel those feelings, and they do pass, but they
Hmm.
have shown me something. They were there for a reason. So again, that resistance and everything, and the fear,
Yeah.
it can be used for good, can't it?
It
So all of
can.
these things are there
Yeah.
for us. So it's just getting that idea that there are so many tools, so many ways that you can help yourself with this, and the universe is supporting us
Yeah.
as well, which
Yeah.
people don't always remember. But and I sometimes to go, oh,
Hmm.
I don't know, and then we get those lovely feelings, like I did through the Reiki session with you, and I just go, oh wow, thank you,
Hmm.
because it's all there when I ask for it, when I show my vulnerability, when I give it up to someone else or something else.
Hmm.
I don't have to do the hard work.
Right.
And that's what I used to think I had to do. Hard work all the
Hard work.
time. And I
Yeah.
don't
Like
have to.
nothing's going to happen without hard work.
Yeah,
Yeah. But
yeah.
no,
And
this
it,
is not
and
it all the
intellectual, it
time.
had
Yeah.
to all be in my head. It had to be driven that way. And the change from, like you say, getting out of your head,
Hmm.
letting your heart speak, feel, go through all of those things, it's just enlightening, isn't it? And empowering.
It
So it's so wonderful
is.
that we can do this, isn't it?
It
Wonderful.
is. And I love that,
Yeah.
you gave that example of a tool that we can use, like to be intentional, to write down what we want to create,
Yeah.
to set our intentions. That's just one little step that we could take. And then it leads to the next thing. Like that's how we start to be guided intuitively. Maybe next time that you feel like you're going through something, or maybe you want to pull an oracle card if that's your thing, or you want to
Yes,
just go
that's
for a
another
hike
thing.
in the woods, or if that's your thing, or lay on
Yeah.
the beach, or whatever it may be. But these things that help you move forward and through, and allow you to trust the process,
Mhm.
and trust the unfolding. Like
Yes.
that is how we move through change.
Yeah.
So I think
You're
it's
absolutely
it's
right.
so
Yeah.
beautiful that you've brought this in, and like that
Yeah.
we're having this conversation. And I mean, there is so much that
There is
is going
always.
on right
There's
now
always.
that we can be
Yeah.
talking about. But I know we want to keep
Yeah.
these a little
I
bit
know we need
digestible
to.
for people.
We
So
do need to keep an eye on the
mhm.
time, don't we? Because we could talk forever. But I just want to go back to what you just said then. It's so wonderful. And again, to remind people, going out in nature when we're feeling stuck or whatever, that helps us, because there's always something in nature that will show us if we're looking.
Yeah,
Also, the fact of moving, when I used to feel scared and stuck, I'd be still and frozen. And actually, when you move in whatever shape or form, and having a walk in nature is so beautiful to do. That's what I do. I take my dogs out, and I've got the woods and everything. And moving makes a difference as well,
it
doesn't it? Rather than sitting
does.
there holding tight, that helps as well, freeing the flow. And also, I forgot what I was going to say now. It's gone out of my mind, but it will come back. But it is so important, isn't it, just to embrace the change, whatever it is, whether
Hmm.
we understand it or not. It's all there
Yeah.
for us. So it is wonderful. And I know we always do these chit chats that are recorded, and then in a few weeks' time around the full moon,
Yes.
we always do a Zoom deeper discussion, which is not recorded. It's a private space
Yeah.
that we hold for people. And again, it's always magical, isn't it, what comes up?
Hmm.
But around the energy of the full moon, and we also have a bit extra, don't we, for our next one, because it's near the Lionsgate portal, isn't it? So
Yes,
and that's another powerful time that if
it
people
is.
don't know, then we can talk about that maybe a little bit more another time. But I think we've got that scheduled for the 2nd of August, haven't we, Trish? Is
Yes.
that,
Yeah, we do.
yeah.
And yeah,
So,
I
so
just
keep an
love how this
eye.
always, it always is so magical. Whoever shows up,
Mm,
the
yeah,
messages that come through,
mm,
and, just what, you know, somebody might need to hear in that moment.
yeah. Mm.
And it's a safe space. So like, what happens there
It
stays
is.
there. And that allows for more, a deeper healing, a deeper
It
experience,
does.
a more
Mm,
magical
mm.
experience as well. So
Exactly, exactly.
aside
It
from
really does,
these
doesn't
more
it? And
public conversations, yeah.
it is. And also it gives people, so people understand, it means that it's not me and Trish talking all the
Right,
time, it's other
it's
people.
everyone, yeah.
And people do come sometimes and feel safe enough to share something quite often very personal, and that leads the conversation.
Yep.
And people get tremendous healing from just joining in, don't
And
they?
just
Never
being
mind anything else
in
they
there,
might get
yeah.
later on. So it's a lovely thing for us to offer for people, and it's always magical. So if people do want to join in, it's a little bit different than this format. As I say, it's not recorded, it's safe. You get a chance to talk more if you want to, because people can't do that here. So do look out and join. But as I say, we've got that scheduled for the 2nd of August. So please do join us if you feel inclined. It is a wonderful healing space, isn't it, that we
Yeah.
hold for it.
Yeah. And I just want to say too, another tool that we can use before we close this out is, you have a set of beautiful meditations that people can purchase in your meditation shop for a very great value, and that they can use whenever they need it. There's ones for to go to, have a restful sleep, to get to sleep, and to stay asleep, and to start your day in the morning. And I know there's other ones as well. There's a whole library of them. So those
Yeah.
are tools that you can access to, maybe dip into meditation if you haven't yet, or if you have and just want. I always am looking for new new meditations or new tools. So those are on your website,
Yeah.
calmerself.co.uk, correct?
Yeah.
And
Thank you for that.
Your YouTube presence. You have a big presence on YouTube.
There's
A lot of
tons on
stuff
there.
there. Yeah.
Mm, mm.
So Calmer
The
Self. Yeah.
Yeah, the meditations that you mentioned, they're lovely. Like you say, there is a night and morning one, which are perfect partners. But actually, as we talked about nature, there's one on there that I put on there recently, which is it's using the nettles to help us.
Nettle.
And they
That's,
were,
yeah. I was
yeah.
trying
And
to,
actually,
yeah.
that works on balance and boundaries. So that looks quick and simple. They're not long and everything, and they're guided. So it is, like you say, a good way to dip into a bit of meditation if you've never done it before. But yeah, have a look. As I say, there's tons on the YouTube. There are ones that you can purchase on my website. So have a look around. And again, if you want to ask any questions of me or Trish, put something in the comments here. We'll look at it later on,
Yeah.
or just get in touch with us individually. We'll always chat to you personally if you want to. Some people do like to do something a bit more privately, don't
Yeah.
they? So,
Yeah. Thanks for that. And yeah, if you're watching this, the video, the replay,
yeah,
ask us any questions. Let us know if there's something you want us to talk about, or go deeper on any topics. And we're always there. And of course, if you want to join our monthly deeper discussion, you can message us as well.
yeah, brilliant.
So thanks
Brilliant.
everyone
Thank
who
you so
joined
much.
us live too.
Yes,
Thank you
thank
for
you. I've
your,
seen some names and
I
we
see
didn't
Amy
say.
there. Thank you for your
Yeah, hi.
comments.
I don't think we've missed any questions, but I've seen
Yeah.
people join. So hi, and thank you everyone who's taken the time to join us live. But the replays, just comment on those as well, and they're there for you to look at whenever you want to. So
Yeah.
thank you,
And
Trish. It's been a beautiful conversation, and I hope that people have really been helped
I
by
hope
it. So
so too. And I'm just always so grateful for you for wanting to do this, for nudging, bringing this forward to have these conversations. And we've been doing this almost a year and a half now, just having these IG
yeah,
lives. And it's like hard to
yeah,
believe, but
yeah,
it's not either, because like it's just so natural. And I love that we're doing this
it is.
ongoing, because these topics are important. We're going through, we're shifting through, or having these huge collective and
Mm,
individual shifts. And it's important that we, find ways to stay grounded and
yeah,
navigate that. So
yeah,
that's what we're
definitely,
here for.
definitely.
So
Thank
thank
you so
you.
much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Much
Speak to you
love.
soon. Bye bye.
Bye.